Well, hello my friends, and welcome back to my show. I'm Lady Leeanna, and this is Witchcraft Wicca, Eclectic Spirituality. And today I felt particularly inspired to talk about disconnection from your pathway, from your pantheons, from people that you may have walked your pathway with, regardless of which pathway in spirituality or religion it was. I mean, I have plenty of people that watch this show from every pathway. But let me talk about me for just a little bit so you can understand one of the things that inspired me to make this video. I had been feeling horribly disconnected, and generally for an entire 6-year period of time, I made videos like approximately 2 years after I started going through chemotherapy and radiation. And that's because I did okay with what I was going through that first 2-year period of time. But as time went on, my situation exacerbated. I began having bone density issues, going through other surgeries because of that, like hip replacement surgery, herniated disc, arthritis in ankles and wrist, as well as other places, and many other situations with my body that I wouldn't even talk about, you know, even now. But I was going through a lot, and I found myself very angry with all that I was, and at that time, feeling like I was made to go through. I felt angry and impatient at myself, about the things I couldn't do anymore, about all the things I felt I didn't want to do anymore, the pain that was going through my body. And this is something that made me step away for a lot longer than what I had anticipated that I would. I felt so disconnected, and it was hard for me to want to get back on my pathway, or felt associable to that again, to feel at one with my God system once more, to feel good to set up even. But the anger inside of me, the frustrations, the impatience, the hurt, heartbreakenness. I even went through, and within this same amount of time, my breakup from my husband that I was with for 13 years, that a lot of people have seen here on the channel on some of my live shows. And that was pain and heartbreak and frustration for me. I couldn't feel at one with everyone else because that was on the channel and within my pathway, because I couldn't even feel at one with the people that were in my house, especially going into heartbreak from them or that. I couldn't feel at one with me. How could I feel at one with anything else? And thereby going through my disconnection in my pathway, my feeling disconnected from my pantheon, through feeling disconnected from y'all on the channel, because you guys are a really big part of all that I do, all that I tread and want to be a part of. You guys are an inspiration for me. I know a lot of people tell me on the channel that I inspire them in so many ways, or I have taught them so many things. But you guys teach me. You guys inspire me. Even if I inspire or teach you. And that's what we do, right? We're a part of all of those within the spiritual pathways, all of those that we partake of from them. We share ideas and understandings and inspirations with, and the love of that which we do, we share that with each other. But, you know, it was just so hard for me, and I found myself so angry. I found myself cussing the God system, cussing the spiritual pathway and everything else. And a lot of that comes from hurt and anger from such extreme things that we go through. One thing that I wanted to talk about in this was how there are a lot of people that will tell you that they feel disconnected, or even say they are disconnected from their pathway, or they're taking a sabbatical away. I wanted to talk about how that does not mean that a person has disowned their pathway, that they have disowned their pantheon system, that they don't intend to be a part of that anymore. It doesn't mean any of that at all. It just simply means that they have another pathway that they have to tread for so much time, and they don't know how much time most of the time, but that they're not giving it away, that they're not disowning it and being through with it. It doesn't mean that at all. And a lot of people might take that from what they say, no matter how light they may put it. But a person may also be inclined to, whenever they're so angry or so much in pain or so hurt by things that are going on in their life, say things that they don't mean, that could make you understand that they are through with their pathway, they're disowning their God system, that they are just entirely done. But that's where communication comes to play very, very well in the interactions that we have with other people, whether we're on this end of the situation or that end. The person that is going into a sabbatical or totally giving away, you know, or throwing away their ritualistic, spiritual pathway or magical pathways, their Christian pathways, or regardless of what their pathway is. You have to really think about what you're saying when you're saying it, especially to other people and not just to yourself. You have to really want to get to the bottom of what a person means when you're the person listening to another person saying what they're saying, whatever it is. And ask them questions about why they feel this way, what is hurting them so much, because this is very important. They really might need that hand to reach down and pull them out from that well that they're falling into, that is making them say such hurtful things against their own spiritual pathway or religious pathways. It may be hurtful to you being the person hearing it, because you love your pathway, you love the pathway that they were with you on and treading down together, etc. But a lot of times the person that is feeling the pain and the impatience and the anger while treading this pathway that they feel that they've got to disconnect from, or feeling disconnected from to whatever degree, they may not know what they're saying. and you've got to ask them to clarify and to talk to them about what it is that is bringing them to the decision that they're reaching with their words, at least. Even if through their spirit they haven't totally reached that end, and they really are just letting things spew out of their mouth rather than thinking about it while they're saying it. At the same time, the person that is feeling the things that they are going through, feeling disconnected, angry, impatient, hurt, and all of that, it is whenever you are so hurt and so impatient and angry, when you're feeling all of these things, it's really good whenever you can shake yourself into a logical standpoint. Better for you to step back and really reflect on the things that you're going through and the things that you're inclined to say to others, the meetings that you're going to have regarding that place that you're at. It's better to step back whenever you can gather yourself to any degree and really reflect before you say and draw those punches that will hurt other people around you, and maybe even verbally end things for you within your spiritual pathway, to a degree that pridefully you may even just totally disconnect because you've already set that in stone verbally, and you should never get there, but people do it. But draw back and really think about what you're doing. If you're that person that's in that place where you're full of hurt and anger and impatience. And for you that's hearing somebody that's in that place, spewing that out, which they may have not have entirely thought about. Really, they may just need a friend, and they may need an ear, and step back and think about what they've said to you. Try to communicate with them and find out what is that well that they're falling down into, that they're having such a hard time coming out of before completely falling down into. Help them pull themselves out before anything, because that's the first step that any of us that are of a logical mind that is hearing someone falling at a particular time that we're interacting with them. That's the place we're supposed to insert ourselves and say, hey, can I talk to you a bit about this? Because they need that more than anything, right? And when you talk to them, listen to them, hear them out, and if they are saying things that totally sounds like they're ending their pathway and cutting ties with their higher power or the forces that be, whatever pantheon or the forces that be that they call to, whether faceless and nameless or not. Talk to them and say, is there no way you can step back and just take a sabbatical away from it until you feel that you've kind of reached a place within yourself of understanding as to where you're at and how you might can come back from that before you domino out all the other aspects of your life and end or cut ties with different things or pathways of your life, people of your life, right? Because a lot of times whenever you're talking about taking a sabbatical from your pathway or stepping away from your religious pathway, and especially if you are cutting ties and breaking from it, a lot of times you're talking about cutting ties and relationships with people that you know and who love you, who really care about you and would understand you if you talk to them. That's very important. But, you know, the most important point here is communication. Now, I had stepped away from my pathway for a long time. I didn't cut ties with it, never did. But I got angry enough to say bad things to my higher power, to cuss my higher power, to cry out in pain many different things that I regretted saying or doing. And mind you, nothing to my husband at the time. Just with that, I really don't even know what happened there, and I don't even want to go into it. But basically, a lot to do with me and my spiritual pathway. Had nothing to do with my husband, because he was what he considered atheist by, you know, the last 6 years of my life, actually. I mean, the past 8 years of my life, if you want to count the last year and a half that he was away from it. He proclaims himself to be atheist at this point. So my pathway and him had really nothing to do with each other, and I never went around saying horrible things about him. But I did cuss my pantheon. I did cuss my pathway and my beliefs and all of that. And I never broke from it, but just totally left it before it was said and done. Broke from it for a while till I could get through what I had to get through for me. And so I feel good that I never proclaimed myself to be not of my spiritual pathway or broke completely. You know, I feel good that I didn't break completely from my God system, although I felt plenty horrible about what I said about any of it or all of it along my pathway within my deep emotional pain and physical pains that I was going through, my angers and frustrations with myself and with my illness and all of that. I felt horrible enough with all of that, but at least I understand and really understood what that was, what it meant. Now, coming back from it, it was hard. It is hard. I have really been trying hard to come back to it for the past 6 months. The past 2 particularly. I haven't disemboweled it from my life, never had. But coming back to it, being back in touch with my practices, sitting down at an altar and not being lazy about it, talking to other people within the pathway is neither here nor there, because I'm not around people of my spiritual pathway a lot at this point. A lot of my friends have flown the coop, have been doing their own thing, doing life for themselves. Their spouses moved away or whatnot. And so I understand that. That's them, and this is me. But all in all, just didn't cut ties with it. Didn't say, I'm through with my pathway. I'm not treading down this anymore. I have said taking a sabbatical away from it, feeling disconnected. And none of this says, whenever you hear it, that a person is through with their pathway. And that's one thing I wanted to make other people watching this video truly understand, if nothing else. That when a person says that they feel disconnected or that they are just on a sabbatical or whatever, it doesn't mean that they're not infinitely going to come back to it. Just that they need time. And eventually they'll gather themselves up most of the time and they'll come back to it. On very rare occasions, they might not come back. But that's them. They may have found something better that they feel stronger about in the end. And we just be appreciative that they found themselves in some way and came back from whatever it was that they were going through, right? It's very important that we try to understand each other and that we don't close things out for them by misquoting them or drawing to the worst conclusion without communicating with them first. That's very important. In my time, I didn't have other people around me, even my old students, that would reach a hand out for me, even my family, and be there for me. I had Austin for a support system, and I don't want to say a lot about that. But I felt lost, lonely, confused. Still do, to a large degree. But at least I understand me enough to know that it was what I was going through that I was lashing out at. It wasn't really the God system, even though that is who caught the blunt end of it. And maybe mainly because I didn't have anybody to vocalize to. And I wasn't making my videos. Austin had disconnected from the pathway like 6 years before. And I couldn't talk to him about my spiritual pathway because of how he was proclaiming himself. I was just lost and alone, and it wasn't without knowledge of my pathway. It was just disconnection from other people in my pathway. And being in the boat that I was, and by that I mean my physical health, not able to get out, go do, I was more or less bedridden for 6 years. I couldn't go and seek it out or join groups, even though Houston is only 45 minutes away. And it made things harder for me. I had, really. But there are people that do, and they will disconnect from that themselves and step away from it. And maybe that is good for them. I mean, for me, I guess it was a little bit of both, right? But it is what it is. In the end, verbally, things mean very little. And that's something that really needs to be spoken about. Verbal things mean very little. However, they do leave a lot to get to the bottom of. And that's for the person before they speak, if they can find some balance within their head early enough before they speak it, to go more into themselves and think about what they're going to say before they say it. Or for the person that's listening to them and hearing the blunt end of something bad that may have been very hard for them to hear. Thinking about it, balancing out, coming to terms with what has been said, and then communicating back to the person that had said what they had heard, and asking them questions and trying to help themselves understand and help the person come to terms with what they said and kind of express what is hurting them. These things are important. Communication is important. Just remember that I've said that. And talk to me in the discussion boards below the video about your feelings on things. Situations that may have made you step away from your pathway on various times that you had. Or situations you know of with somebody that's close to you, if you are able to speak about it on a light note. Talk to us about your feelings on things and maybe even the feelings that you were faced with when you stepped away. Maybe people within those communications, if you're going through it right now, can be of a help to you. Maybe you are going through it right now and need to reach out, but without other people knowing about it, they can't be of a help to you. Perhaps you can put it here in the discussion boards to where we can help you. Meanwhile, I have been coming back in strong force with myself and within my pathway, particularly over the past 2 months, and probably stronger than I have been over the past 8 years with what was going on with me. Getting back to me, that's important right there. Many blessings to all of you. And by the way, please support the channel, because my channel is fueled upon that which I do within my readings for people in the physical place that I am located and online by video call, either via Skype or Facebook Messenger. Get with me via my connections down in the description of all of my videos. The description right under the videos, you can find all of the information as to how you can contact me in the various means of support that you can give for the channel, either via Patreon or through getting a reading done. Many blessings to all of you, and merry part for now. Bye-bye.